Okay, just a quick little one. I've had an interesting comment. Now the question is, the brake line, does the clock stop dead on that, or does it overrun by an instruction or two? And that is actually a really interesting question. If you think about the brake instruction, it will get fetched by pipeline stage 0. It goes to pipeline stage 1, which does absolutely nothing. And only when we clock into pipeline stage 2 will this brake line go high. And that directly hits the MOSFET down here, which is equivalent to pushing the brake button. Now, I do need to go and have a quick look at one thing on the side of the assembler, because this is a debugging feature, which I don't use very much anymore because I use the simulator more for debugging program code than I do actually running it on the hardware. Here in the assembler architecture file, I've actually got the brake instruction is implemented as 03F, which is what the encoding is, but I've got a NOP in front of it and two NOPs behind it. And that was just to avoid any confusion of having any instructions left lying around on screen when I hit the brakes. So I think what I'm going to do is come down here. I'm going to use the Primes UART because it takes a decent chunk of time. And if I do that, that's the raw brake instruction without anything else going on. But I'm going to stick some instructions either side of it to be nice and obvious what we're doing. Okay, so memory ones aren't so good because they complicate the viewing on the pipeline. Oh, that's an excellent candidate. The shift lefts are nice and obvious in their code. Right, so I've commented out the quit, so that's going to keep going around in a loop. But the other thing I'm going to do is, first time in, I'll also brake, and I'll try and do that in a single step. Okay, so I'm going to drop to trace mode and then hit return, and it's going to take a little while just to process the command, but then we should see that first brake. There it is. So here's the brake instruction in pipeline stage 2. So that's hit and stopped exactly where we'd expect it to. And there's the shift right instruction for A and B. So in terms of the instruction sequence, it's stopped exactly where we would expect it to. Now I can continue, and it's going to start outputting the Sivers Eratosthenes results. Don't think we want to run it like that, so let's see how the brake goes at full speed. And once again, it's stopped in exactly the place we'd expect it to, with the brake instruction in pipeline stage 2, and then these two shift instructions in pipeline stage 1 and in the fetch unit. So that's behaved exactly the way we expected it to. Now that's not a huge surprise to me, because the amount of time that it's necessary to actually get the equivalent of hitting that brake button just requires the rising voltage on the brake line here, which we can see from the LED, to trigger the MOSFET, and that will bring this line down, which switches the set reset complex latch into the brake state. And we just need that to happen before the end of the first half of the clock in order for everything to be exactly frozen. Pleased with it though. It's always nice that something you haven't checked actually does work exactly as expected. Hope that answers the question.